Do you want to learn to play the Big Easy?
In this video, we're going to take you through the full rules for the game, and if you stay tuned until the end, hopefully you'll pick up a few tips and strategies along the way. Coming up. Hi, it's Tarrant.
And Stella from Meeple University, bringing you a variety of quality board game videos.
In this video, we're going to show you how to play the Big Easy, designed by John Goff and published by Last Lion Games.
Now, let's get to the table.
In the Big Easy, players play the role of detectives attempting to solve a murder in 1930s New Orleans. Players will move their characters throughout the city, getting equipment, facing threats, and ultimately investigating locations to try to get the pieces they need to solve the murder. Once a player has a suspect, evidence, and motive, that player wins the game. To set up the game, separate the 5 basic decks of cards, the blue gumshoe cards, the red encounter cards, and the 3 piles of clue cards, motives, evidence, and suspects. Choose one of the 3 case cards. This essentially sets the difficulty for the game. Dixie's Dead is the basic difficulty. Find the 3 neighbourhood cards, Uptown, French Quarter, and Downtown, and place them in the centre of the table with some space around them. Then discard cards from the top of the gumshoe deck until you find a location. Place the location next to its matching neighbourhood. Each player takes a detective card, which comes with its own special ability, and the matching token, which can be placed on any of the neighbourhood or location cards to start the game. Each player draws 6 gumshoe cards to start the game. You're now ready to play. We're teaching you the game from a print and play prototype copy of the game, and so the art and components that you see will not be final. On each turn, a player will go through the 5 steps as shown on this helper card in this order. The player will complete all of these steps before play passes to the next player clockwise, who will then do likewise. Play continues in this manner until someone has won the game. The 5 phases in each turn are the draw phase, in which a player draws new cards, the legwork phase, in which a player plays cards in preparation for the rest of the round, the move phase, in which a player moves to a new neighbourhood or location and may have to fight against a threat, the investigate phase, in which the player attempts to get clue cards by investigating a location, and the discard phase, in which a player can discard cards that he or she does not wish to keep. The first step of each turn is the draw phase, in which the player draws up to his or her hand limit. This will normally be 6, although there are effects that can change that in the game. Additionally, if the player was wounded in the previous round, flip the token back to the non-wounded side. We'll talk more about wounding later in the video. The second phase of each turn is the legwork phase, in which a player may take legwork actions, and there are several different types of legwork actions which we'll go through now. You can take the legwork action at the neighbourhood where you are currently located. You can play a yellow coloured legwork card from your hand, taking the text effect and then discarding it. You can take an equipment card from your hand and play it face up in front of yourself to equip it. There are 3 different types of equipment cards: devices, weapons, and get-ups, and you can only have one of each equipped at any given time. To equip another version of the same sort of card, you must discard the one you already have equipped. Equipped cards stay face up in front of you until they're discarded by some other means. If you have an equipped card which has a legwork action, you can perform that legwork action as well during the legwork phase. The final option for the legwork phase is to play a location card from hand. In order to do this, take the card and then place it adjacent to the location that matches what's shown at the top of the card. Playing a location card will give you an immediate bonus which is printed in text. Locations may have a type printed in black, which will combo off some other cards in the game, and in addition to the immediate effect, may have an ongoing effect. Note that no neighbourhood may have more than 3 locations at any given time, so if the player had another French Quarter location in hand, he or she would not be able to play it at this point in time. The location that's been played is a new location to which all players will be able to move on their turns. And ultimately, this is a location where you'll be able to find a clue, in this case evidence. So players will usually want to put locations out in neighbourhoods which are advantageous to them. Many of the gumshoe cards in the game are called medal cards, and they're shown in this blue colour. Medal cards may be played at any time, including out of turn, and a lot of them are take that actions which players can play on each other to slow each other down. Every time a player takes an action or plays a card, all other players have the opportunity to play a medal card at the same time in order to interfere with that action. There are also medal cards that a player would want to play on himself or herself, as it will help the player in the current situation. Medal cards can be relevant in all phases of the turn, including the legwork phase. So, after each legwork action, every other player has the opportunity in turn order to play a medal card, and then if multiple players played medal cards, those are resolved in reverse turn order. The third phase of each player's turn is to move, and this phase is optional. When moving, a player may go from a neighbourhood card to an adjoining location card, from a location card to the neighbourhood or a different location card in the same neighbourhood, or from a location card or neighbourhood to a different neighbourhood. What a player cannot do is go from a neighbourhood or location straight to the location at another neighbourhood. Must go first to the neighbourhood and then to the adjoining location. Any time a player moves into a location, not a neighbourhood, that player will draw one of the red encounter cards, unless there's already an encounter at that location. Encounter cards come in two types, threats or obstacles, and we'll talk about threats first. When you face a threat, you have two options, either to try to fight it or to dodge it. In order to dodge it, you must have a medal card in your hand which specifically allows you to dodge that sort of threat. Play that medal card, discard it, and then discard the threat. The other option is to try to face the threat in a contest. Determine the threat's base value. In this case, it's 3, and then add 1 for every matching trait between the threat and the location where it's found. Traits are these icons in the top left corner of a card, and there are a total of 9 different traits in the game. In this case, the Abomination trait matches, and so the Patchwork Man's value is 4. Then the player chooses a single card from his or her hand to play into the contest. Determine this card's value in the same way, by adding the number in the top right corner of the card to any traits which match with the location, not with the threat. So in this case, the Perception trait matches, giving 1 match for a value of 4. At this point, all players, including the player in the contest, have the opportunity to play medal cards into this contest, maybe to strengthen the enemy, or reduce the value or even discard the attacking player's card. After all players have finished playing and resolving medal cards, then total up the new final values for both the threat and the player. If the player has equal or higher than the threat, then the player wins the contest. If the threat has a higher value than the player, then the threat wins, and the player must discard cards of his or her choice equal to the difference between their two values. Additionally, take your token and flip it over to the wounded side. You'll automatically become unwounded again at the start of your next turn, but there are certain cards in the game which combo against being wounded. Either way, whether it's success or failure, you will discard the threat. The other type of encounter that you might come across is an obstacle. All obstacles are treated differently, and you should refer to the text on the obstacle card to understand how to defeat it. Unlike threats, obstacles will stay in place until the card is discarded based on the effect as printed. Note that many of the encounters in the game have the terror keyword, and this forces you to discard cards from your hand when you encounter it. So, in summary, when you move into a location, and this is specifically a location, not the central neighbourhood, You either draw and encounter a new encounter card, or face the encounter card that is already there. And this one will be an obstacle because threats are always discarded at the end of the encounter. When you face a threat, you can either play a card to dodge it, or you will engage it in a contest. When you face an obstacle, all obstacles are different, so follow the text on the card. Whether you succeed or fail at facing the encounter, you will now, unless it states otherwise, proceed to the investigation phase. If you're at the neighbourhood rather than a location, you will skip your investigation phase. When a player investigates a location, he or she will be engaging in another contest, similar to what we just described before when facing a threat. The reward for winning the investigation is to get a clue card of the type matching what's shown in the top right corner of the location. Recall that you need one clue card of each of the 3 types to win the game. In a normal investigation, the number that you'll be attempting to reach in the contest is printed in the bottom left corner of the card, in this case 3. However, before each investigation, players, in turn order, have the opportunity to obstruct your investigation by playing a card from hand, either meddle or non-meddle, in an attempt to come up with a higher number for you to face. Say a player chose to play this card into your investigation. This has a value of 3 plus 2 for having 2 matching traits, and therefore it has a value of 5. Pick the highest overall number played, and you will face a contest against that number. So in this case, the contest target would be 5. Then the contest proceeds exactly as it did for fighting a threat. The player chooses a meddle or non-meddle card from his or her hand and calculates its value, and then all players, including the player investigating, have the chance to play meddle cards in order to improve or reduce the chances of the investigation succeeding. If you fail to meet the target, then your investigation fails, and you stay in that location hoping to investigate again next turn. If you succeed, draw the top card from the corresponding clue deck, discard the cards used in the contest, and discard the location card. It has to come out of somebody's hand again before it can be searched again. Any investigators who are on that location are moved to the adjoining neighbourhood. When you gain clue cards, these will initially come face down in front of you. However, they do have effects printed on the back which can come into play, and I'll explain this now. Evidence and motive cards all have meddle effects on them which require the card to be revealed in order to activate it. At any point where it's relevant, you may flip one of your motive or evidence cards face up in order to use its meddle effect. This meddle effect cannot be used again unless you get a specific effect which allows you to unreveal the card. Suspect cards have a detrimental effect on you which makes it easier for other players to obstruct your investigations. The detrimental effect does not come into play unless the card is revealed. You would never reveal a suspect card voluntarily. There are cards in the game which can force a player to reveal their clue cards, and this means you will either force someone else to get the detrimental effect of their suspect, or to lose the potential meddle effects on their motive or evidence. At the end of your legwork or investigation phase, if you have one of each type of clue card, reveal them and win the game. What's printed on the front of the card is irrelevant for the game-winning condition. Finally, there is the discard phase, and if you have more cards than your hand limit, you must discard down to your hand limit. You may optionally discard down further if you don't like the cards in your hand, and you will redraw back to your hand limit at the start of your next turn. But remember that you can play meddle and obstruction cards out of turn, and so if you discard all of your cards, you won't be getting involved in any of that until the next time around. A couple of quick notes on the theme of the game. The game is a 1930s noir-style detective game and uses some terminology from that genre. When a card refers to wasting a card, that means to discard it from wherever it is on the table. A player's case file is his or her collection of clue cards. Reloading a card means to take that card and shuffle it back into its relevant deck. The boneyard is the discard pile of a certain type of card, And burying cards means drawing and immediately discarding cards until you find a certain type of card. Note that while many cards allow you to waste gumshoe cards, those cards cannot be used on locations, which are a type of gumshoe card, unless the card specifically says it applies to locations. The 3 basic neighbourhood cards, which by definition are not location cards, are never affected by these sorts of effects.
And that's how to play the Big Easy. We hope that you enjoyed the video and we hope that you enjoyed playing.
At the time of filming this video, the Big Easy is soon to be a live project on Kickstarter, so do check it out there if you're interested. We will leave a link in the description below.
If you like this video, please let us know by hitting the like button. Write your questions and feedback in the comment sections below. If you'd like to join our Facebook group, Meeple University Community, for us who all like board games, please check in the link descriptions below.
And finally, to be among the first notified of what's new from Meeple University, please consider subscribing to our channel. You can click on the Meeple up in the corner to do so, and do hit the bell for notifications.
Until next time!